All right, welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, Eric Rice. This is our interview series. We capture so many interesting people. I've met so many interesting people along the way. None in my world, because I'm a finance nerd, none as interesting as Reid Rasner, who ran for Senate in the state of Wyoming on pretty much the same platform that Donald Trump is running on today. So an American first politician who happens to be a financial advisor with Omnivest in Wyoming. So if you're looking to manage money, please reach out to him. Reid, so great to have you here today. I apologize. We just had a recording cancel on us, so we're kind of rebooting here. Let's hop into U.S. tariffs.
Yeah.
Explain U.S. tariffs to the common person. What does this mean on both sides of the fence?
A tariff is a tax on the import. We really need to know what a tariff is versus a tax. A tariff taxes an import. So we're buying something from China, and that is being taxed to the manufacturer over there. The manufacturer in the country is paying to have that extra tariff placed on them for us to import it over here. So yeah, it costs more when it gets here, but the benefit is they don't like that, the businesses. So they're going to bring that business right here to American soil, and we're going to start building cars right here in America. We're going to start building our own agricultural equipment right here in America. We're going to drill for our own gas, pump our own oil, and dig our own coal right here in America. Where a tax is going to tax you, the viewers and listeners, every single day of your life, and it's going to fund the government bloat. So the tax is a tax on you. A tariff is a tax on a good from a foreign country. And companies don't like that. Businesses don't like that. Big business and corporations hate it. And they're going to bring those jobs and that manufacturing right back here to America. And that's where we're going to benefit. So the long and short of it is the short-term pain outweighs the long-term benefits. Truly, the long-term benefits keep a long-term view in mind when you're viewing tariffs. And we really need to go back to our civics courses and learn what tariffs are versus taxes, because there's a lot of confusion happening, especially in the media.
Yeah. Well, and the media has its own opinion because the media has been funded by taxpayer dollars for the past 2 decades, at least, based on the research we're seeing coming out of USAID, which is now officially closed down for many different functions for the betterment. Now, the thing we talked about before is that tariffs have to go hand in hand with taxes, right? So instead of taxing us for our own goods to be cheaper, we're going to tax corporations and foreign countries and then not have to pay as much in taxes. So the price kind of washes itself. Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah, that's right. So we have my phone right here, made in China, and certain of it. Apple can bring their manufacturing right here to America, and we can innovate and we can build these and manufacture these phones right here in America. Or they can continue, this is a choice. We still have free will, I believe. They can continue to manufacture these phones and buy their computing chips and everything over in China. And but they're going to pay a 25%. I can't remember what he announced. What did he announce? 25 or 10%?
25 already, and now 10, so a 35 combined.
Yeah, so 35% tariff on Chinese goods. So you want this phone, it's going to cost 35% more from Apple, but Apple can say, hey, I don't like that because I'm going to sell less phones. Why don't we just open up a nice manufacturing plant right here in Wyoming and manufacture our phones right here in Wyoming or in Colorado or in Iowa or in Ohio, right here in America, manufacture Apple products and get rid of the tariff. Then our phones are 35% cheaper. And it just makes sense because now we have good high-paying tech jobs right here in America.
Well, and I think the left spins this out of control because they say, well, and the thing about them that they're brilliant about is that they spin it out of control with truth. So they tell a lie with truth involved in it. So they'll say, well, your iPhone's going to be 35% more expensive, which it is. Like, there's no way Apple's going to go, we're going to eat a 35% tariff. We're going to pass that on to the customer. So now they are correct in saying that for a period of time, yes, your iPhone is going to cost more money. However, over time, Apple's going to realize that they're going to have less customers. There's going to be less cash in the system. You're actually going to have more money print and inflation. And what bringing that manufacturing facility back to America does is it gets those 18, 19-year-old kids that have no idea what they're going to do with their life. It gives them a job. It gives them a good paying job producing products. More importantly, it employs more people. When more people have jobs and those jobs pay well, they spend more money throughout the entire economy. And I think that's the balance that people aren't seeing on the left. They're only getting the opinion of next week, your pen may cost more money. That's true. but next year your pen will be half of the price and you'll have twice the amount of money in your pocket, right?
That's right. The left hates taxes when it's on anyone else but Americans. They love taxes for Americans, it seems like.
That's a good
It
point.
doesn't make sense. I don't get why we have to shoulder the weight of the world year after year after year through wars, through recessions, through whatever the crisis is. America stands there and the American taxpayer pays out of pocket for everything. It is time for the world to begin paying. It just levels the playing field. They need to pay their fair share, just like President Trump keeps saying. And it's not just iPhones. It is the liquid natural gas that is being shipped over here on massive ships to heat our homes. When right here in Wyoming and Alaska, we have we last a million years. We have enough natural gas right here in this country. We can do anything we want with it and pump it right here and become an exporter of it to the rest of the world. This makes zero sense. We can pipe it anywhere we want. We can ship it to China. We have the cleanest coal in the world comes from Wyoming, right here in coal country, lowest sulfur rates in the world, and we can export that all over the world. We don't need to import dirty, nasty Chinese coal, and that's what they put a tariff on. So why are we even doing this? It doesn't even make sense. So yeah, tariff those things because we're going to bring the manufacturing and the jobs back right here home, and we're going to have great high-paying jobs again. And that's where the tariffs are truly going to benefit. It takes a little bit of time for these companies to catch up, though, because this doesn't just happen overnight. We don't just build an entire workforce overnight, a brand new manufacturing plant overnight. These things take time, but the short-term pain is definitely worth it because the long-term benefits are going to make us a very, very wealthy nation and give you a great high-paying job.
And you're right. So I was in oil and gas, and we drilled a bunch of gas wells in the Bighorn Basin, and it is robust. I don't think people realize this. The stat I read was between continental United States and Alaska. If you combine those two sources of quote unquote fossil fuels, which is a Rockefeller term, but if you combine those two land masses, you have enough natural gas and petroleum. Throw in coal, the number is bigger, but just natural gas and petroleum, there's enough there to power every building, home, car, and airplane on planet Earth for 287 years. Like there is so much here. We have to export. If we don't export, this country is just going to be taxed into an oblivion. Let's talk about innovation.
Yeah.
What do tariffs do to stimulate innovation? How would this affect us with China?
Well, it's very exciting. So President Trump is a tough, strong negotiator. Thank goodness he's there. He's going to protect American businesses and finally, hopefully, put the cuffs on China from stealing our innovation. They steal everything from us, our pharmaceuticals, our technology. They steal everything from American innovators and use it themselves and replicate it and then sell it back to America. How dumb are we for buying it back? We innovate it, we build it right here, and then they take it and bring it back. So we look at their artificial intelligence. This is the latest thing in the news. Their DeepSeek artificial intelligence that they're making for pennies on the dollar to our NVIDIA. NVIDIA is crushing it across the board with their innovation and their patents and their computing technologies and their AI and their chips. And it really hurts. So the government's going to regulate DeepSeek, it looks like now. American exceptionalism on display is so great, and it's going to provide such great high-paying jobs in America. Innovation through blockchain, innovation through financial technology, Fintech industry. There's so many exciting things that are going to be great high-paying jobs for a new generation of people. So you want to make that 6 figures. This is the way forward, and this is where the world is moving, and it's happening right here in America. So this is truly great for Americans.
Well, and I don't think people understand the innovation issue and how China comes into play. And I can explain it from experience. So if you're in America and you develop a new electronic, you get a patent on it, you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, you get a patent on it, and then you want to mass produce it. Well, first you're going to produce, your alpha and your beta, and you're probably going to do that in America because you're going to pay a lot for a good beta. Once you're market ready, there's no competitive manufacturing in America. There's on price, there's none. There are certainly American manufacturers who can make circuit boards, chips, mainframes, anything you're looking for. The innovation isn't in the manufacturing. I mean, there is significant innovation in manufacturing. I don't want to belittle manufacturing. The innovation is in the concept, the design, and the patent and the functionality. So what happens in America today is you develop some sort of hardware, as a great example, and you have this patent on it, and now you want to monetize it. Well, you can't compete in the marketplace because every other competitor is sending their manufacturing to China. And when you do that, you have to send them the instructions and the patent and primarily fly over there to get permission to do it. What you're giving them permission to do is to make your equipment for your brand, and then they're going to become a silent OEM for every other competitor. They have literally been stealing profits from innovation, and innovations thrive on profits. What point is there to innovate if you can't make money? That's the whole point of human innovation. How do the tariffs, just walk us through? I've got a good idea, but walk the listeners through how a tariff on China would bring innovation and manufacturing back to America step by step. Break that down for the average listener.
President Trump's 60 or 100% tariff on China. The innovation has to come back to America. Manufacturing has to come back to America. And we're not going to be sending our ideas and our intellectual property overseas just to ship it back. We're just going to keep it compartmentalized right here in America. Same with our pharmaceuticals. We innovate all of these amazing pharmaceuticals, all of this amazing technology. We continue to innovate and come up with these ideas and these concepts and these formulas just to ship them overseas so that they can replicate them and then sell them back to us. So when we sell them overseas so they can bring them back, we put a tariff on it, and no one wants to do that. So they're going to have to build the new plants right here in America in order to keep those costs low. And these large corporations know that, and they don't like it. And that's too bad, but it's going to provide huge, high-paying jobs for Americans. Just give it time and let the world and the economy, this is a slow churning thing, let it catch up, and you'll reap the benefits very soon. It just takes time. So just trust the process and let it happen. You're going to be very happy in the end.
Yeah, I think those are two words that, two statements that I think most people can't put together. It's going to happen very soon, but it takes time. You're dealing with 50-year-old bureaucracy, looking at the government of where it's been, 70 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, America was a free, prosperous nation, but we've allowed in undercover communists consistently for 50 years who have put these restrictions in place on our own people and opened the floodgates for foreign countries. So I think you're right. It'll happen in the blink of an eye after the process is run through.
Yeah.
But we're going to see some interesting things here, Reid, and I hope you run again. I don't know if you will, but I hope you run again because we need more people who think like you in the Senate. But let's just game theory out some of the crazy things that are on the table, right? I'm most interested because I've been an anti-tax advocate. I was a quasi-Tea Party guy, right? So I've been involved in all these things, and tax is theft, especially income tax and property tax. Those are the two biggest forms of thievery in the world. How entertaining is it going to be? Because there's now a bill at the House to abolish the federal income tax, which would essentially abolish the IRS. How entertaining is that going to be for you to watch 50, maybe 55% of Congress argue to continue to tax Americans? Like, think of the pressure put on them.
Listen, Americans need to understand when they vote who they're voting for. And when they say we're going to tax you, they're actually taking money from you and your families. A tariff is taking money from a foreign company or a foreign corporation that is American-based, possibly, or Canadian-based or Mexican-based or wherever it's from. That's who they're taking money from. But an actual tax, when they talk about this, is coming from you, the American people, the American small business owners, the backbone of this country. So to argue in favor of that is like, absolutely, let me tie my own noose. That's insane that you would help someone do that. Abolish the IRS is one of my campaign platforms to get rid of the IRS, and then you just have a flat tax or a fair tax or a sales tax in this country. It just makes sense, and it balances the budget after the first year. On if we just looking at the numbers, 10% on anything over is what I campaigned on, over $107,500 a year. So the first $107,500 you make is tax free. So you make $80,000, you make $50,000 at McDonald's. I think that's what they're making now. Some of these people.
Wow.
Or in Wyoming at one of the Whole Foods, I think the only Whole Foods in Wyoming, $25 an hour is starting pay up there. That's tax-free to you, and you're in Wyoming, so there is no state income tax. Tax-free money up to $107,500. Anything over that is 10%. So it balances the budget in the first year. Your corporations, 10%. You look at Apple; it's a $3 trillion company or something like that, or $1 trillion company. Maybe Nvidia's $3 trillion. I can't remember. That's a lot of money right off the top that goes into the flat tax or a sales tax, however you want to do it. But you get rid of the IRS. 100,000 employees, cut from the government, so we aren't spending money there. You make the check out directly to the United States Treasury. There's no middleman. You're no longer hassled by gun-wielding idiots from the IRS demanding you crack your checkbook open and ask you if you have a piggy bank next to your bed. It's ridiculous how they handle this and how they treat Americans in our own country. The tax is on the American people. The tariff is on a foreign country and those foreign corporations. Let them pay that for us, and we'll balance the budget the first year. So anyone arguing to continue to tax the American people is out of their mind.
But they will. But they will, because they're bought and paid for by central banks and by corporations who want to continue to get free taxpayer money through USAID. The web is being unwoven right now, right? That's the beautiful part about Trump, is he came in like a wrecking ball, and immediately started like Elon or don't like Elon. The one thing about Elon right now is that there's nobody else who can do what he's doing. No. And having these young autistic coders digging through it is just amazing to watch.
He is the hatchet man, and it is such a great thing to see these people come from government back to normal life. What did they say? I think 20 or 40,000 federal employees have accepted their buyout, so they're going to resign.
20,000.
Was it 20,000 today? I was like, I couldn't remember exactly what I read. It's an amazing amount of people who will join the free market, and they'll become entrepreneurs, and they'll get to live the American dream just like you and I do every day, and they'll get to see what an income tax actually is, and they'll get to see what it's like to live without a government pension. What a beautiful thing this is for these people to wake up to tomorrow morning and realize what's actually happening, and they get to be part of this historic moment in American history.
Yeah, we've, on the tax side, we've had this argument forever. You hear from leftists who, in JFK's time, were truly Democrats. Today, the left is communist.
Yep.
And everything's got to pay your fair share. Well, what about, we have this tax code where you make a little and you pay a little, you make a lot and you pay a lot. But if you make a lot, you can dodge it because you can invest. I think the biggest thing for eliminating the income tax, I love your plan, under 107,500.
Yeah.
That's the category of the country. Right now, the latest stat is that the bottom 52% of America, the bottom 52% control 2.4% of the wealth. That is a complete communist imbalance. And this offers that segment of the country, that 52%, bottom 52% of our earners, they now have no tax, so they can invest, they can spend money. People don't realize how much consumer spending is, how important it is to this country. Now you don't have to worry about paying, in that bracket, say 15%. If you made 90 grand, you're paying about 15%. So now you have an extra $15,000 a year that you can invest in the stock market or crypto or a new home.
Fund your IRAs, your 401ks, fund your retirement, for gosh sakes. It's such a beautiful opportunity that's coming. A tax-free society gives us a middle class again, which we don't have. And I don't know how you can argue for more taxes and more progressive taxes. So you were talking about the progressive tax system. That is not good for Americans. No. I can't imagine anyone arguing against eliminating a tax. Eliminate the taxes. Set one standard for everyone. There are no more loopholes. It's very simple. And this is why they hate it, is because there's no more loopholes. Yep. If you're Donald Trump and you make $1 billion, you pay 10%. If you are Reid and you make $107,500, you pay nothing. If you're Reid and you make $250,000, you pay $25,000. I mean, the math is simple. It's basic. And our math courses are going to teach taxes finally. What a beautiful thing. We're going to learn how to do our taxes in high school. You just take 10% of what you made.
Yep. Very simple. It's like a seventh grade. You learn 10%. There you go. Sixth grade. The other thing is him abolishing or breaking up the Department of Education. This is another thing the left is just thrown in a loop for. And I give two examples. So number one, when we started the National Board of Education, we were number one in the world in academics. Now we're number 26. Okay, that project failed. Number two, an exact example, a high school girl sitting behind a parent at a football game goes, "Hey, are you about ready to leave?" She goes, "No, it's halftime." She goes, "How many halves are there?" Like that.
I didn't hear that one, but that's amazing.
That's where our education system's gone. So bringing the stuff back to education, my son's high school, I'm in Texas, and my son's high school that he's at right now, they have theology, New Testament, Old Testament, economics, entrepreneurship. these are the courses our kids need to study instead of DEI. So that's gone. I think it'll probably take 6 months for that to be eliminated from schools because they'll resist it.
Yep.
But look at all the things that are happening right now from a financial perspective. I think the most exciting thing that we're doing right now is the sovereign wealth fund. Yes. And I don't know that many people even understand that. You are a financial advisor. Can you explain? I do it on Telegram and Twitter, but it's just better to hear it from the horse's mouth. What is a sovereign wealth fund and what will it do for this country?
Well, it's going to make us more wealthy overall. So when we establish a sovereign wealth fund, and President Trump was saying that this would fund Gaza, for instance, it could buy TikTok, the sovereign wealth fund. It will begin to buy assets that will continue to make America rich. I mean, TikTok, for example, President Trump has said it's worth $1 trillion if America and Americans are allowed to use the platform. If we're not, then it's worth nothing. Mm-hmm. So why would America not be able to use that business model and prosper from it, since it's American, since Americans are the one innovating it? This is our innovation, basically. We're the ones driving it forward. It's worthless without us. Let us use this. The Sovereign Wealth Fund can fund Gaza and rebuilding that and creating peace in the Middle East. Something amazing that's going to happen. The Sovereign Wealth Fund can do so many great things for America and for the globe, and it will take the weight of all of this off the American taxpayers, and it will pay for itself, again, with time. So these things don't just happen overnight. Yep. In the world of finance, time is money. And everyone says this and no one understands it, but the more time in the market you have, the more money you're going to have. So you look at Warren Buffett, who started investing when he was like 12, his story is, or 13, I can't remember, maybe 15, I don't know. And he started investing and never stopped. And now he's, what, 88, I think, 90? 90. So he's had 75 years in the market, where us younger guys, I'm in my 40s, have not had that much time in the market. So we're just not there yet, but we'll get there. So sovereign wealth fund, tariffs, these things take time, and you just need to slow down and have a little patience. Not everything is the click of a button or on our phone, but you just have to slow down. So with that needs to come some really strict regulation to make sure that we're transparent, and we run the sovereign wealth fund through the blockchain, maybe. More innovation, more layers of security, and ensure that Americans know their money isn't being spent on drag shows. Know that Americans aren't spending their money to fund wars or
Sesame Street in Pakistan.
Street. I don't know where I want to go with this. I didn't know how much I wanted to go, but we're not funding the things that we don't want to fund as Americans through that sovereign wealth fund. And it doesn't become a lobbying slush fund that funds political campaigns. We really want to make sure that this is upfront and completely transparent for the American people, and everyone can see what's happening. And you can do that right through the blockchain. So more innovation right here in America. We're on some wild times. And like I said, that first 17 days is what it's been. It's just been amazing. So
17 days, crazy.
American exceptionalism is back, and it's stronger than ever, and you can feel it when you wake up.
Well, walk people through on a sovereign wealth fund. I always explain it like this: it's like a mutual fund for your country. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. You have a fund manager; he determines where the country can use its cash to make returns. So I think Gaza is a misunderstood point. I think Gaza, we will pay for it to be leveled and rebuilt. I hope they relocate the Palestinians back there. It's their land, and they've lived there a long time. That's a different discussion.
Oh, absolutely. But Hamas, you've got to get rid of the terrorists.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, again, different discussion, but and much different, with way more nuances than this one. Okay. But from a sovereign wealth fund position, we're going to have Howard Lutnick, or whoever's going to be. Lutnick will probably be. I think he is the fund manager, who's managed Cantor Fitzgerald. So he's going to look at Gaza and say, okay, if we invest $900 billion and rebuild Palestine, people think, well, we're just giving away more taxpayer money. We're not, actually. We're using revenues that the country is bringing in through tariffs. So the tariffs will feed the sovereign wealth fund. The sovereign wealth fund will invest in projects, which that may be one. And if it is, they'll end up selling off all that property. And then all those profits from the rebuild of Gaza go into the United States sovereign wealth fund, which can be used by the government pretty much at will. The fear of sovereign wealth funds is foreign nations. Examples. Many countries have set up sovereign wealth funds in order to nationalize.
Yep.
So they've gone in and said, well, we're going to invest in our energy sector for year after year. And eventually they own 51% of the voting stock and they nationalize those operations. I don't have that fear under Trump at all. And we're talking about a lot of things. You know, you were running for Senate. So you've probably met way more people in Washington, D.C. than I am. Most people don't understand that an executive order is not a law. An executive order is an urging of Congress to pass a law based on that item. So we still have to get through Congress for a sovereign wealth fund, digital assets funds, all these other things still have to go through Congress. I personally don't think the digital asset reserve is going to pass at the nation level. I think it'll pass at the state level. And we talked about this before.
Yep.
But I also think that we're going to see significant resistance on abolishing the IRS, permanent tariff implementation, and the sovereign wealth fund. I think you're going to see Wall Street lobby heavily through Democrats and Republicans to squash that bill before it becomes real, because they're going to be stealing profits from Wall Street. And that's what no one's really seeing about the sovereign wealth fund. You are cutting the legs off of Wall Street to be able to front run deals and make profits for private citizens, where now the country profits. What are you thinking in this case? Like, I think the sovereign wealth fund should have been done 30 years ago. Think how much money we'd have as a country right now.
I think the legislation that sets it up will be critical and very crucial in the way they wield power and the way they do this. I don't think so the pendulum swings both ways, especially in government. And we've seen it a lot these past 8 or 12 years. So we go from Joe Biden to Trump to Obama. We're going back and forth here. So if we set up a sovereign wealth fund and Joe Biden 2.0 comes in behind somehow and is like an executive order that points all the money over back to Iran to fund Hamas, it would be devastating. So the legislation will be crucial, and we really need to consider what happens with executive orders and how these happen. I campaigned on this. Executive orders shouldn't be permanent. They should be temporary. And it should be a way to allow time for Congress to act. But we have executive orders that go in and somehow become governing pieces of paper that aren't legislation, that no one voted on, that we still abide by today. These executive orders give a unilateral authority to one office in a system of checks and balances. And I'm not against executive orders, but I certainly would prefer that an executive order expire and they can renew it again. But Congress has to do their job, and that's exactly what's not happening and hasn't happened, I don't think, since Newt Gingrich balanced the budget. I don't think Congress has done their job. But Congress needs to take the executive order and say, okay, do we want to pass legislation for a sovereign wealth fund and establish this? And Congress then controls the purse strings. And Congress needs to say, here's what the money can and can't be used for. We can't make executive orders to govern the sovereign wealth fund in a new administration. And I'm all for privatization, so we can have public-private partnerships help manage the sovereign wealth fund to make sure it's not used in nefarious ways against the American people, because I think that's the biggest fear, especially for conservatives, is how are they going to wield this and use it against us? They did it with the IRS. They do it with the Department of Education. They do it with every single department, BLM, ATF, all of these.
Bureau of Land Management, for those who don't understand that, not Black Lives Matter.
And
USAID funds the other BLM.
I mean something different because I'm from Wyoming. So the BLM is here. So 48% of the state is owned by the federal government. So Bureau of Land Management, the ATF, the FBI, how are they going to weaponize this against their own people, against the American people? So we need to have some really, really strict guardrails, American first guardrails in place, and keep our constitutional rights in plain sight when we establish something like this, to make sure the money isn't used to help foreign adversaries, and we're not just sending money, American money, because ultimately that's American money, a sovereign wealth fund, to adversaries or for things that Americans don't want to pay for. Wars are one of them, and Americans are sick of paying for both sides of every war. So I think that's where the fear is.
When you bring up a great topic by mentioning BLM, Wyoming, 48% owned by the federal government. Nevada, 87% of the state owned by the federal government. You have two real estate gurus behind this, where you have Trump and Lutnick, tremendous amounts of real estate between the both of them. If I were them, and this is probably on the palette, number one, a federal government owning that much of any area is not a free country.
Yep.
That's not. So perhaps what we're going to see is a big land sale going from the public sector to the private sector to fund the sovereign wealth fund. What if they came out and said, we're going to sell 90% of our federal lands in Wyoming? Oil and gas guys would be up there buying that at a premium immediately.
I think in Wyoming, they wouldn't get away with it. They could sell it back to the state, but Wyoming and Wyoming's people would fight hard to keep it public access. Even if it's state owned, they want access to those public lands. So that would take out our national forests. That would take out all of our hunting land. I mean,
protect those. Yeah, you have to protect those.
What's that?
Yeah, you have to protect those lands that have use, but there's also a vast majority of it that's just oil and gas land that they do federal leases on.
You still listen. In Wyoming, it's a different culture here. So you still go out and you do dirt bikes on public land, on state lands. You still use these lands on the weekend. You can go right out here 20 or 30 miles just right south of Casper, and I can go out and shoot my gun for free right there. I mean, it's just a free shooting range. You clean up after yourself. These are state and public lands. They have to remain publicly accessible. We don't want to privatize it, similar to Texas where you're at, because now all the Texans come up to Wyoming to go hunting. So we want to keep public access to public lands. We want to make sure the ranchers can still graze their cattle on the public lands. We want to make sure that oil companies can still extract minerals from the public lands. And the state is 100% the best stewards of our lands and waterways. I truly agree with that. And the federal government shouldn't own them. So returning those to the states is very important to me, but making sure that they remain publicly accessible is even more important to me. And I think a lot of people in Texas would agree with me because unfortunately, there's not a lot of state or federal land left down there. It was all wrapped up, privatized. And that's why they come to Wyoming to go hunting or Montana to go hunting, because we still have public access to our public lands. So that's very, very important right here in Wyoming. And it should be to the rest of the country, not to privatize everything. But public-private partnerships are a great thing. Less federal government is a great thing. Less government in our lives is a great thing. But having those lands is a very sacred thing, especially in Wyoming, I think.
Well, this is why I have conversations with people, right? My preconceived entrepreneurial notion is incorrect. That's fantastic education, but many states aren't like that, right? There's certainly Nevada. Most of it's used for atomic testing and all.
You don't want to own that land. You might not.
Yeah, I don't want to own it, but it should be for sale. I think that's something they'll probably look into. This has been a great conversation, and I hope to have you back on. More importantly, I hope to get out to Wyoming and shoot with you so we can clean up our shells together.
You come to Wyoming, and we will go shooting. We'll have a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Reid Rasner, this has been amazing. Can we get you back on here in a month or two?
100%. I got you all my contact information. I come back anytime. You let me know when, and I'll be back.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much, Reid. Thank you for coming here today. And as always, God bless you all. God bless this country. Stay calm, stay level, see what happens next. We have no idea what's going to happen next. So stay calm and level during that time. Great things are on the horizon in this country. You just got to kind of hold your breath and bear through it. So Reid Rasner, thank you so much. Best of luck to you out there and everything you're doing, and to Omnivest. I hope you guys just have a great year this year.
I hope so. Thank you so much.